Young Thug got emotional inside of court as his lawyers realized this case is going to be easy. The prosecutors are having such a hard time even asking simple questions to the witnesses that are on the stand.
As it relates to a musical artist's words, is there any crime in saying words?
There are certainly potentially crimes in spoken words.
All right. Now, I'm not talking about crimes being described in words. I'm speaking of, is it a crime to speak the words?
As a generality, no. Outside of...
Your Honor, that was the answer to the question. And...
So it's non-responsive, is that what you're saying? Okay, I sustain it's a non-responsive.
Have you ever sought to arrest anyone for speaking words in a song?
No, ma'am.
With the witness being so confused on the stand, the judge would ask him to leave. Then the prosecutors would bring out a new witness named Melissa Rozier, where a report would read, in Thug's RICO trial, Melissa Rozier is a house mom at the South Pony Club outside of Atlanta. She testifies about getting carjacked on her way home from work by a group of YSL members.
Stopped at the stop sign and I felt someone hit me. I looked up and saw a car. I didn't want to block the entrance, so I pulled on to the right, which is the direction I would have taken to go home anyway. So I turned to the right, stopped, got out of my car, turned it off. I left my keys and everything in my car. The subdivision in which I was living at the time, a lot of Delta people worked there. People were coming and going all hours of the day and night. I mean, women would be pushing babies in strollers 5:30 in the morning out running. So I thought nothing of it. I got out and turned the car off, left the door open, everything in the car. I walked towards the back of the car. A young man got out of his car. I greeted him. He greeted me. I looked down at the bumper and saw no damage. And I really, at that point, was going to look up and say, honey, I'm tired, I'm going home, you go home.
She would explain that it was very late at night, and while driving home, an opposing vehicle would end up tapping her bumper of her vehicle. She would then hop out of her vehicle to see how serious of an accident it was until a YSL member would steal her car.
And as I looked up, I saw someone in his car rising up, and he was running around me. I guess my mind knew something was about to happen, something that wasn't good, but it happened so fast. He got in my car, and because of the backpack, my mind just focused on the backpack. I opened the back left passenger's door, thinking I could reach into the front seat and get the backpack, and the backpack, because it had my daddy's CD in it and my camera. So I reached in to get that, and I guess instinct, I don't know, God said just let it go. So I stepped back and actually shut the door myself. And he drove off. At that point, I think the other car had already gone.
As this crime occurred 10 years ago in 2013, the state would then ask her if she knew a Trontavia Stevens, aka Slug, the co-founder of YSL, who took a plea deal in December of 2022. However, she said she does not remember his name at all, which ends up making her testimony feel a little strange. The state would then call the officer that was in charge of investigating the crime back in 2013, who actually provided little to no evidence at all, so he ended up making things up on the stand to try to make Young Thug look bad. However, it ended terribly wrong, as in trial he claimed that Young Thug and YSL members were teasing him by throwing up hand signs.
I observed them come out of the building with their attention already focused on the vehicle that I was driving, myself and my partner.
Okay.
And then they immediately began throwing signs and yelling at us.
Had you done anything to that group of gentlemen before they came out, focusing on you and your partner, throwing signs and yelling at you?
No, ma'am.
As he claims that because he couldn't solve the case, Young Thug and other YSL members were teasing him. Then moments after he stated that, it would be reported, Young Thug's lawyers are going to work. Atlanta officer is getting cross-examined after accusing Young Thug of flashing hand signs at him. Thug's lawyers are asking why this wasn't mentioned in his original report.
When you testified a little while ago for the state, they asked you a couple questions about this. You said they were flashing hand signs, right?
Correct.
Now, You didn't say that in your report, though, did you?
No.
And I mean, you wrote a 2-page report, and it was very detailed about everything that happened and everyone who was involved, down to names and dates of births, right?
Right.
You even put a serial number in there, right?
Yes.
And you're trained as a police officer that anything that is of significance, like if you think, for example, something is related, you put that in the report, right?
Right.
But that report, the same one that she had you read, right, because you can remember some stuff, in that third paragraph where it talks about what you saw those people doing, you ain't say nothing about, I saw the signs, right?
Correct.
This would go viral on social media. Huge social media accounts would tweet, "Dog, the defense in Young Thug trial is going off on the state witness for lying and saying that he saw hand signs being thrown at him." Even sources inside of the courtroom allege that Young Thug was laughing so hard, he began crying. Meek Mill would then shortly tweet after, "Jeff is gonna beat this case. It is too messy," as we now have police officers lying inside of the courtroom. However, things would get even better for Young Thug, which helps us figure out his future release date. To understand when, we now need to dive deep into what Thug's lawyers did, as he ripped apart all of the prosecutor's evidence when he would reveal the truth about Thug's team affiliation, his lyrics, and even what the Young Thug rap name means, as he would first explain what Young Thug truly stands for.
That was not what Thug meant to Jeffrey. Thug meant and means to Jeffrey something very personal. It was his path. But if he could ever make it as a musical artist and help his family, himself, and his many others out of this endless cycle of hopelessness, he would be truly humble under God. That's what Thug means.
He would then start beginning to break down what the song Pushing P stands for, as apparently Young Thug and Gunna named it after pushing positivity.
That is a P. Jeffrey's fingers are down. And what you'll learn is that Jeffrey just released, with Sergio Kitchens, performed known as Gunna, a song that is wildly popular. It's around the globe. It's called Pushing P. And it's positivity. It means any circumstance you're in, if you think positively about something, you can make it through. You're pushing positivity. You're pushing P. Jeffrey is showing the P.
On the topic of music, Young Thug's lawyer would then start breaking down some of the lyrics that the prosecutors want to use against Thug. As a report would read, the state says that when Young Thug said 24M on a man, that he was talking about putting money towards someone. In reality, Young Thug was talking about the $24 million diamond Lil Uzi Vert got into his forehead.
It is the rapper with the surgically implanted pink diamond in his forehead. The police bury this. The prosecution buries this. I will show it to you. Now, the evidence will show, they may say, oh, we're sorry. You made a mistake. There's no mistakes here. This is a big deal. This is a bill of indictment in Fulton County, Georgia in 2023.
Everyone watching this video likely knows that everything Young Thug's lawyer just said is likely a lie. We all know what his music is truly about and what he's truly about in the streets. However, the jury that is in his trial has no idea who Young Thug is or that he's even a music artist. They aren't allowed to, which is why this trial took so long to begin, as they had to find people that didn't know who he was. With Thug's lawyer using this as his opening statement, showing that Young Thug is truly a good person and is humble to God, it's a very good look for him for the trial, as Thug's lawyer would then even finish off his statement telling the jury that Young Thug is a studio G, and he's not an actual real life G that does things in the streets.
He's not unique and say, oh, that's a Donovan Thomas Tom. Jeffrey sings about cars all the time. He names all different cars. They just pulled out the top of it. These are common themes. This is, you will learn, studio. They're in the studio. They are creating music for us to listen to.
When you mix all of this in with the talks of a soon mistrial, Young Thug's release is very soon. And it's all because when a judge would call for recess, calling a witness off the stand, the cameraman would zoom out a frame for recess, but while doing so, he accidentally turned the camera over to where the jurors were sitting. As Akademiks would report, members of the jury were shown on live stream, and people believe this is why the judge called the attorneys to his chambers for a potential mistrial. As reports would then come out from No Jumper, fans are already identifying jury members on Young Thug's trial after the courtroom camera accidentally revealed their faces. A commenter would say, "I know that guy with the glasses on. That's Dante Wilson. He's on the jury." As his comment would actually be liked by DJ Akademiks, showing even more people on the internet. With this happening on the side of the judge also being angry at the prosecutors, it makes Thug look even better. 30 minutes into the opening arguments, it would be announced, judge in the Young Thug trial isn't happy with the state because they never turned in all of the slides they planned on using in their opening statement.
Is there anything else you're going to use in opening you haven't shown to defense counsel? He's telling us. Well, I said that. I told you to do that a week ago. Because here's what I told you was going to happen. I've got a jury that's out right now that's being interrupted. And Mr. Williams, you should have made your motion or should have told me about that an hour ago or when you found out about it. Not hijack me at the bench about that. You did what you had to do, but I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy about any of this. Because this is stuff we could take care of before our jury comes in. And that makes you all, lessen your ability as advocates and lessen our ability for this jury to go ahead and get this case seamlessly. This is what I told you all was going to happen. So,
as the judge even stated in the opening of that clip, he already told the prosecutors to be ready, have all of their slides and evidence ready for the opening day, and they ended up not having a single thing ready.
Your Honor, we would ask because we would ask that all of this be reserved for the 16th because this all came up in September. You said you allowed us to.
I am really annoyed about this, Ms. Hilton. I just am. This is ridiculous. Your witness list has grown by 2/3 since then. And I don't know why. You better have a dang good explanation on the 16th, because if you don't, I'm going to exclude it. Okay. But right now I'm telling you, without anything further, it's gone.
Well, we would like to
exclude a lot more on that date because this is ridiculous. There is no plausible explanation I've gotten and that would suffice. That we just kind of keep, you keep dripping and driving out evidence.
As the judge was pre-warning them to be ready, as they tried sneaking in 200 plus witnesses to come to trial and share crimes that Jeffrey, aka Young Thug, committed, all while not sharing the names of these witnesses or even what crimes they witnessed. The trial would begin stressing out the judge a lot. He ended up having to bring in a service dog to help calm him down.
Here behind me is this bell that starts jingling, all right? And if you hear a jingling sound like a bell, please don't think that I'm doing anything creepy up here, all right? I have a service dog behind me. His name is Jack. I think some of you may have seen him already. He lives the best life ever. He's pampered. He's really, and he is a Labrador Retriever. He's about almost 2.5, 3 years old at this point in time. So, but if you hear that bell, that's him moving around, all right? He doesn't bark. He rarely gets interested in what's going on, so he might come up here and look, but that's about it, all right? Don't bring him any food either, okay? All right? He is spoiled rotten. So please don't try and throw any food back here behind me or anything like that. He doesn't need anything else, okay? But if you hear that bell, hear that sound.
As later in the first day of the trial, the prosecutors then began their opening statements against Young Thug, where they would end up revealing that when YSL members get in sticky situations in the streets, they would end up calling Young Thug's sister instead of Young Thug himself, as the YSL members would have to call his sister, who would then relay the message to Young Thug.
You will hear evidence that when members and associates of YSL got in trouble, got locked up, the first person they called was either this defendant or one of his family members. Now, they didn't call him directly because he knew and they knew that he needed to have distance between himself and the crimes members and associates of YSL were committing on behalf of. So they would reach out to his sister and have his sister reach out to somebody else and eventually get back to King Slime, as they call him.
With the prosecutor showing little to no evidence within the last week of trial, this would end up leading Young Thug's girlfriend to hop on a podcast outside of the courtroom, where she would then reveal when Young Thug is getting released, as well as their plans.
Do you think that marriage is the next step for you, Young Thug?
I mean, when he gets out of jail?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think either of us want a jail wedding. Yeah, but I feel like he definitely wants to be married, and I feel like I do too.
Do you ever imagine life outside once he's out?
For sure. We talk about it all day. All day long. I mean, I feel like being imaginative can help every human being on earth not lose your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is like a little slight state of delusion.